Welcome to Beyond the Screen, an IONOS podcast, where we share insights and tips to help you scale your business's online presence. Hosting genuine conversations with the best in the web and IT industry and exploring how the IONOS brand can help professionals and customers with their hosting and cloud issues. I'm your host, Joe Nash.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Screen, an IONOS podcast. Today, we welcome a visionary in the world of technology and digital transformation, Pavi Agrawal. With a career spanning over 2 decades, Pavi's journey has seen him don the hats of a co-founder, chief technology officer, and IT leader at several influential organizations. Currently steering the ship as the vice president and head of IT at Relativity, he champions enterprise-wide solutions that touch everything from enterprise architecture to business intelligence. But his journey has been diverse, from establishing startups and guiding them to successful acquisitions by private equity, to spearheading IT transformations in globally recognized brands like Tupperware and Mars. Pavi, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
It's always wonderful to read through these bios, but your one was especially exciting because my house is a big Tupperware house, and I have to admit I did get a bit excited when I got to that end bit. I was like, "Oh, that's new. We don't see that kind of name on this podcast often." So that is awesome. It's great to have your diverse experience, all kinds of different sectors here on the show. So I guess I want to kick off digging into your background a bit, as we so often do. With that journey I just underscored, from co-founding startups to leading IT transformations in global companies, how has your perspective on IT and technology's role in business evolved over the span of those 2 decades?
First of all, thank you for having me here. So I'll tell you, I've been in IT for almost 25 years.
Awesome.
And I started off as a developer.
Cool.
Working in mainframes, ES9000, they don't even exist. All COBOL stuff and RPG. And that time I was totally focused on programming.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
In fact, back in the days in AS400, I used to code in RPG, ILE, only thinking about technology, only thinking about that, okay, I have to write this program, not thinking about the business perspective at all.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, over the years, as I have graduated more and understood the business more, what I've realized is that IT is the enabler for business.
Sure.
Okay. And a lot of companies, in fact, I would say 95% plus companies right now, IT is a cost center.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. It is not a profit center.
Yeah.
Yet. Profit center yet.
Okay.
But things are changing now.
Okay.
Because what my perspective right now stands is that every company, whether it's a CPG company or a manufacturing company or a retail company or a software company or a aeronautics company or trains, or every company is a technology company.
Right.
They just don't know it yet.
Sure. Yeah.
Because nothing will work if technology doesn't work.
Sure.
So IT plays a very, very important role now.
Right.
And it's not just a business enabler, but in a lot of cases, it has a seat on the board, and it can do things which nobody else in the organization can do.
Yeah.
So that is a perspective change that I've had in the last 25 years. Not thinking about business at all, and thinking about wholly about
recognizing
business.
It's important. Yeah. And I think that's a journey that I feel like many listeners to our show who, have started off as a software engineer and slowly, as they've gained experience, got closer to, how the business functions, will recognize that journey in themselves for sure. So you said something interesting there that, obviously every company is a technology company, whether they realize it or not. And I think part of what you described there about, technology being pivotal to their success is ultimately the recognition that hey, we're a technology company because we have to have technology, because how do you function in the world without technology, versus how do we leverage technology for success, for competitive advantage. So talking about, the idea of digital transformation, digital success, what do you think it means for a business to truly succeed in digital today? If they're just starting out this journey of recognizing the role that digital plays for their business.
Right. See, digital transformation is not something new, right? But this term was coined more recently, digital transformation. But people were using mainframes even at that point. There was some level of transformation where things were manual.
Yeah.
Somebody came up with the idea of mainframe. They started using those programs, starting putting their purchase orders or through the screens instead of a manual physical paper. So that kind of digital transformation was happening.
Sure.
Nowadays, with the onset of cloud, things have taken a completely different direction. Earlier, we had to set up an application. We had to buy a server. The server procurement would take months.
Right.
Actually,
you've got
right?
Physical machines being put in
Physical
actual
machines,
like places by people. Yeah.
Yeah. Then somebody would be, we'll be hosting that machine into our own data center.
Yeah.
And then our data center would grow to the size of like 30,000 servers running in the data center with physical security and digital security and everything. Things have changed now. Now, with a click of a button, we can have a virtual machine running in Azure, AWS, GCP, or whatnot.
Sure.
Right? So that is a very important part of digital transformation. Then onset of SaaS subscriptions. Right? We don't write softwares now. We subscribe to a software.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I mean, there are companies like one of my last employers, very large CPG company, had thousands of subscriptions for different kind of business use cases. Now, good and bad thing, because I X'd out 50% of them when I was rationalizing the inventory. But still, the good thing is that you don't have to write the software. You just subscribe to the software.
Sure.
You may tweak it a little, but you just subscribe to it and use it. Right? So that is another very key aspect of digital transformation. The third aspect I feel is the mindset. People need everything on their tips now. The information is needed right now.
Sure.
Whether it's through mobile phone or iPad or your computer, of course, anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in US to work. Right now, I'm working from India for 2 weeks, and I see no problems in working.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah.
Because
the information's still there.
So
you know where to get it. Yeah.
Any information available anywhere in the world without any boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And of course, the security part. Sure. So those are the key aspects of digital transformation. Ultimately, every process within a company should be touchless, converted in zeros and ones, basically digitally, transferred through wires, not through papers. That would be the ultimate goal of digital transformation. Sure. I think that's my take on this digital transformation.
That totally makes sense. So you mentioned something there that I want to go to briefly, just to be topical. So recently on Twitter, on social media, or I guess X now to say it correctly, there's been a lot of discourse about SaaS subscriptions, and particularly the developer sphere has been talking about basically like companies putting down big money on SaaS subscriptions, and it actually turns out no one's used it and you can cancel it. Basically an approach to dealing with these services where you just cancel them every year and you see which ones people complain about before you reinstate them. So it's really interesting that you mentioned, axing 50% of them.
Oh, yeah.
How do you approach, dealing, when you've got this proliferation of SaaS at a big company, how do you get to that 50%? How do you shake out the ones that aren't doing anything?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I've done it in 3 companies now.
Sure.
And have been hugely successful.
Yeah.
Saved millions of dollars for the company. In fact, one other company we saved around $12 million within matter of months. Matter of months. Seriously.
Yeah.
So I have to go back 25 or 30 years back into my life.
Yeah.
Actually, even 40 years, because I'm 50 now. So as I was growing up, went through certain tough times. And I realized the importance of money very early on. And I became very frugal. I would not spend money where it is not required.
Sure.
I would spend money very wisely. I would preserve. I would save. And that became in my DNA. So wherever I went, even if I'm writing the code, I would make sure that it's most optimal code.
Sure.
It's taking the most optimal resources. It's easy to maintain, easy to change, and everything.
Right.
So that has been my mantra since I was growing up. Now, when it came to SaaS, I saw that I joined one CPG company. That was my first experience looking at it in a grand scale.
Yeah.
Company was spending around 100 million plus in SaaS subscriptions.
Okay.
Not kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. So for SaaS subscriptions optimization, there are a couple of things that you have to look at.
Sure.
One is what you have subscribed. Basically, you have subscribed for 1,000 users, or you have subscribed for compute usage of X number of units, or you have subscribed for storage, whatever.
Yeah.
So different subscription models, right?
Yeah.
Then we have the contract. Okay. What is our contract say? How long is the contract? And then the usage, actual usage, what's happening in the system. And these 3 things you have to look at and find out opportunities. So what we did and I had a team actually, that's why I'm saying we.
Yeah.
So what we did was we looked at low hanging fruits first.
Sure.
So we looked at low-hanging fruits where we found those softwares which were not used at all.
Right.
Zero usage.
Yep.
So people just bought it because they had funding.
Yep.
And we saved like a couple of $1 million
way to
right
put it into the workflow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we basically, and then there was a lot of budget decentralization that was happening in that company because it's a large company. China bought their own software, Germany bought their own software, and so on. Then we consolidated those applications.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need 12 instances of Concur? We don't need 12 instances of Concur.
I've definitely been in companies where that has happened. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Why do we need 40 different ways to manage master data? We don't need to. Right? Why do we need 60 different applications for managing our invoices? We don't need to. Even though you're a global company, you don't need to. Sure. Maybe we need 5 different instances. So those are the opportunities that we took care very fast. Mm-hmm. Now the challenge comes is the contract is usually 3 to 5 years with these SaaS companies. Right. So the renegotiation of the contract within that 3 years is a very big challenge.
Yeah.
But in certain cases, I was able to work out where we got credit and other things for future use, but not in all of the other cases. But overall, the same mantra, same formula we implemented at Tupperware also, and my current company also, because it makes sense. Why should we throw the money out when we don't have to, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel especially with a lot of, platforms that people are using at work, now like Slack and Zoom and things with plugin and with ecosystems where it's very easy to get into a subscription for a little piece of functionality. Like, you want polls in Slack, you want like coffee chats in Zoom, and suddenly employees are just adding SaaS subscriptions left and right. And, the big things like Concur and Salesforce that the business depends on are part of it, but you also proliferate this like long tail of small things, right? Fascinating.
And I mean, it's interesting you brought up Slack because most of the companies have Microsoft.
Right.
They're Microsoft Shop. Mm-hmm. They all have Teams subscription free.
Yep. Yeah. It just comes with any other Microsoft product, right?
Yeah. It comes free. Yeah. Right. Now the premium is an additional cost, but the basic Teams is free.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's a huge saving, almost like substantial money.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the same can be said of, every tech company in the world has Google Suite somewhere, right? Which has, you can find probably a tool to fit pretty much everything you need to do in there somewhere if, you dig for it. But yeah.
And actually, I was working for as a advisory consultant for one company. Mm-hmm. I'll not take the name, but they don't have Microsoft in their house.
Right.
All Google.
Yeah.
They have Google Gmail they use for official emails.
Right. Yeah, I think that's very common. That's been the case at a lot I've been to.
Yeah. And it's a pretty big company.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a very timely detour. But to go back to digital transformation, so we spoke about digital transformation, but you shared those 3 points that you think are key digital transformation. So I want to talk about your approach to digital transformation, which is like, how do you come to digital transformation at a company in a way that's innovative and practical for the organization? And in particular, looking at, the issue of, say you've got a company that's really kind of like step one of digital transformation.
Yep.
How do you prioritize which technologies to integrate first into the business? How do you tackle that mountain?
Yeah. So see, to have proper digital transformation in an organization, especially those companies which are very stable and like legacy companies, right?
Sure. Yeah.
100-year-old company or 50-year-old company.
Yeah.
Nobody will listen to you if you talk about digital transformation, to be very frank.
Sure.
Nobody will listen.
Yeah.
They don't have time.
Yeah.
So first thing that you need to do is listen.
Yeah.
Listen to their pain points.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You need to partner up.
Yeah.
And before you start talking about digital transformation, that's a leadership. You need to have that strong partnership with them.
Sure.
So my mantra has been be useful, gain the trust, partner up, and it's all all based off listening. So that's a basic thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Once you have that strong partnership enabled, you need to look at certain things. Okay. Mm-hmm. We need to look at our existing landscape to look at what technology debt they have. So number one, reduce technology debt as part of this digital transformation, because none of the digital transformation will succeed if you have a lot of legacy debt.
Right.
Okay? One of my previous companies, there were around 6,500 applications, 4,800 websites. Mm-hmm. I'm not making up these numbers. These are real numbers. Yeah. And when I was, we looked at from the transformation perspective, come on, how can we build on something where the foundationally you have so much of technical debt?
Yeah.
So as a result, we basically X'd out around 3,800 applications.
Wow. Okay. That still leaves like a stunning amount of applications, but it's a huge start. So, yeah, absolutely.
So more than 50%. Yeah. And imagine what you can do to the OpEx.
Yeah.
OpEx for those companies, for that CIO, it will reduce substantially, not just from resource perspective, but even the compute perspective, the maintenance perspective, change and so on. So that's number one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Number two is risk mitigation. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm not even talking about digital transformation right now, because that is that will happen. But once we have to take care of these things also.
Sure.
So reducing technology debt, risk mitigation is second one. Mm-hmm. You cannot imagine how many companies they're running vulnerable with security. And none of this digital transformation will succeed if you have thousands of CVEs present in your digital areas already, or on-prem softwares. So security vulnerabilities, end of life of the applications and hardware and software they have, operating system they have, license and compliance issues. Those things needs to be taken care of. Okay, sure. And everything is going in parallel actually. Now let's talk about digital transformation. Mm-hmm. Digital transformation also you have to consider from the consumer facing point of view, as well as core of the business point of view. Okay, core tech when I talk about is those softwares like ERPs. Okay, sure. Workdays or a procurement solution or supply chain solution. Sure. Core tech transformation,
like almost the operational capability, right? The things that keep the business running. Yeah.
I mean, things like SAP and other integrated solution. So that part. Yeah. And then we talk about the UX also.
Sure.
So UX should be based off the design thinking.
Sure.
Where we conduct design thinking sessions with the end users. Mm-hmm. Everything should be mobile first. It should be mobile ready, given everything. And of course, data and analytics. I mean, leveraging big data and going cloud first approach with everything cloud. Okay, nothing should be on-prem unless it is really required. Okay, sure. When certain things like in office displays, there are certain things that you might need a server or two in-house. That's a different thing. Or for manufacturing, you might need on-prem servers. But other than everything should be on cloud.
Sure.
Then data and analytics, leveraging big data, leveraging cloud analytics, leveraging generative AI nowadays. All those things. So this complete spectrum of things is what I call digital transformation. Okay.
Yeah.
Now there is one more aspect of transformation which is extremely important is human.
Sure.
So we talked about. So we have three pillars mainly, right?
Yeah.
The people, process, and technology. Sure. I also talk about enablement.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you don't enable the people, our digital transformation will fail.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what does enablement means? Enablement means how we do the demand, how we manage the supply chain of the software or the data, how we produce the software, how we manage the complete DevOps, or rather, I would say DevSecOps.
Sure.
Okay. In fact, I have added one more word of requirements to this. Nice. Because without requirement, nothing works. So REC, DevSecOps. So there are multiple aspects to it. So basically, agile REC DevSecOps process is what I believe in. Cool. And that enablement has to happen.
Yeah.
And that enablement is very critical because I have seen companies which will have brilliant idea, but they cannot execute well. And they end up spending millions of dollars to create that big idea. But then there is no ROI because you already spent so much because of your broken processes.
Right.
So people, process, technology, and enablement should be part of the digital transformation.
That makes a lot of sense. I like the emphasis on, on obviously the people and partnering with the, people in your organization to find the problems. First of all, the first thing that struck me as you were talking about that was it's very reminiscent of what we have heard on this show from experienced product managers who are talking about, managing the product and making sure it's addressing user needs. And it's very much a similar, if you're thinking of the organization as a whole, as a product and its users are the employees, a very similar approach, which is very interesting. Yep. But then also, it's great to hear that and great to hear those three pillars, because I feel like at least in, I've never worked in digital transformation, but I've been adjacent to a lot of it happening. My perception has often been that digital transformation is something that happens to a business rather than is, cooperatively done within the business. So, often someone has decided, hey, let's bring in some consultants who are going to do a digital transformation, right? And so hearing your envision of those 3 pillars and it being so people-centered, I think is really
Absolutely.
important, and a very
actually,
interesting approach.
The reason we have to introduce people and enablement part is, well, what's our ultimate goal of digital transformation? Right. Our ultimate goal of digital transformation is to reduce time to market for the business. Period.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Business can move faster.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether it's launching of new products, whether it is for delivering of a product to a customer, or anything. So if we don't consider people and the enablement part, then we will not reduce the human errors.
Right.
Okay. We'll take more time to produce the product that the business wants to use. Right.
Yeah.
It'll increase the cost of ownership of anything that we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then it will also increase, if you don't take care of people and enablement part, it will also increase the severity and frequency of those incidents, which business disruption will happen and business will not be able to move faster. Sure. Right. So that digital transformation will not work. So all of these vertical pillars and the bottom horizontal of enablement is extremely critical. And a lot of people miss that part where they don't enable the processes around it.
Yeah.
And then people say, oh man, my digital transformation is not working.
Sure.
I implemented this Workday, but it's not working because, man, you have not enabled the processes around it.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, that makes sense. Then that, I think, leads me very nicely into another question here, which is, so when you mentioned, a couple of, I guess, like newer technologies there. You mentioned DevSecOps, which is a somewhat newer rebranding of the term. I like your spin on it with adding requirements as well, but also generative AI, a very hit thing at the moment. When you think about introducing these new technologies and strategies into an established business or a legacy business, how do you? This sounds a bit adversarial, but how do you overcome, internal reluctance or pushback or skepticism? Like how do you, I guess, like use that enablement picture to convince people that this is a positive change?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, there are 2 things that I truly believe, and I use it now and then. I have gone through 7 transformations.
Sure.
And it really works. So first thing is always think big.
Mm-hmm.
Execute small, and iterate.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So take smaller chunks.
Yeah.
Breed success.
Sure.
Gain the trust.
Yeah.
And become influential. If you become influential, create another iteration.
Yeah.
And this is like, human psychology actually.
Yeah.
Because with change management,
right,
you have to play with human psychology.
Yeah.
So I have a big thing in my mind that I want to digitize everything.
Mm-hmm.
I want to cut down to 3,000 applications.
Sure.
Okay. But then I have to execute small.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to iterate through it, repeat the formula.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do that, then we are slowly gaining the trust in a new organization when a person goes.
Yeah.
Instead of getting in and saying, oh, we are going to change the world. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
People will resist like anything, because ultimately what your goal is to implement those incremental changes. Mm-hmm. So small chunks, break it down. You take one process, modify it, create a success. Success breeds success.
Sure.
So think big, execute small, iterate, because success breeds success. Your first iteration, if it fails, doesn't matter. It's a small impact. But if it is successful, then you gain the trust of the business.
Yeah. It's very similar to what's the famous under promise, over deliver, kind of a similar vibe. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Monolithic transformations is not going to happen.
Right.
Those big bang approach things is gone.
Yeah.
Those are gone things. I mean, my current role, I have implemented 27 different changes in the organization, just to improve our DevOps and Agile and how we do things, everything,
Right.
Because our digital transformation journey requires all those things to be done, but we have to do it iteratively, because every iteration we do has to be a success.
Sure. Okay, so to flip that over, so that's talking about you've got a new thing you want to implement to a business, you're trying to convince people. For you, especially with your experience having co-founded startups, how do you assess the potential of new technologies to be disruptive in the market? Like, how do you convince yourself that this is something that you want to bring either to the company or to the market in the case of your startups?
Right. So see, I look at very I don't go emotional with technology. Okay.
Sure.
The moment I have realized that technology is there to either improve the customer experience or
Sure.
either improve the employee experience, either it is digitizing the processes, or either it is helping us achieve the operational excellence. Okay. One thing or the other. So any technology that comes in, I always think about which part it is going to help me or help the business. Okay. Whether it is going to make me money or save me money, because any dollar saved is also equal to almost, like if I consider EBITDA of 20%,
Sure.
it's also every dollar I save is equal to $5 in revenue.
Right. Okay.
Right? Because $5, 20% of it is EBITDA is $1. So if I'm saving $1 with a technology introduction, then I'm actually generating $5 revenue for the company.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. And that's how the mindset has to change to make IT the profit center, because it's not there yet. So what I'm saying is, so when we look at the new technology, whether it is generative AI or data analytics or any other SaaS subscription that we're talking about, or automation of, we have to think about from that perspective.
Yeah.
Customer experience, employee experience, digitization of the processes. Either it is helping us operational excellence, achieving operational excellence, whatever we want to do, or optimizing the cost, or adding, helping us with a new business model. So one of the things has to be there. If it is not there, I'm not interested in the technology.
Right. Cool. That makes sense.
One more thing. Sorry.
Yeah. No, please go ahead.
Or it is eliminating the risk to the business, because there might be certain things where it may not fit into any other bill, but it has to be done because of it's a risk.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm still sitting with the what you were speaking about in terms of the revenue spend relationship, and it come around that direction. It's exactly what you said at the beginning about flipping being a cost center and being a revenue generator, where I'd never thought about it. And it sounds so silly, but I never thought about it in that direction. I always thought about, in terms of, hey, this thing I do now will make this much money, but not how much revenue has been generated to enable the spend I'm doing now is, really. I mean,
imagine this, a company to make $10 million in profit or EBITDA margins.
Yeah.
At a 20% EBITDA margin, you have to generate $50 million in revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you save $10 million in certain costs, you're basically adding to the bottom line. It's a big number.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really interesting. So to jump, so earlier on we were talking about you talking about the importance of data analytics and taking advantage of the new forms of data analytics we have available to us now. With that in mind, with the importance of data and decision making improving, with data-driven decisions being very key in all kinds of businesses, how would you recommend that legacy businesses reframe their data strategies to leverage these new technologies?
Yeah, see, from the data analytics perspective, we have to consider all sorts of data within an organization. I mean, legacy technologies, both structured and unstructured and semi-structured data. Because the amount of information that is present in the structured data in legacy applications is only a fraction of it.
Sure.
But unstructured data is in documents, in PDFs. That is substantial information which is not even tapped.
Yeah. PDF, the amount of information locked in PDFs gives me nightmares, honestly.
Exactly.
Such nightmare format.
And I think organizations should consider the holistic approach when they talk about data.
Yeah.
Okay. Structured, unstructured, semi-structured, even audio, even small messages, what we call text messages and Slacks and Teams and
like the voice messages that people send, like the quick voice messages they fire over.
In certain cases, yes, short messages. So short messages is a big deal, because the amount of messaging that is happening through short messaging is much higher, much more than emails. For instance, okay. So an organization has to consider, when they talk about data analytics, from multiple different aspects, considering all the different elements, the structured data, the unstructured data, and the semi-structured data. Okay.
Sure.
Emails and other things, right? Now, depending upon the different use case, you can have the analytics sitting on top of it. You can use certain, I know certain companies, they use modern softwares like Snowflake and Tableau and Microsoft and so many other things, Azure Data Lake. Again, that could be case by case basis. But from a strategy point of view, all the different types of data should be considered. Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be my take on this on a high level right now.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, the various unstructured media, available for employee communication now is a really interesting one from so many angles. Like you mentioned, traditionally, I guess email has been the strata of business communications. But then when you start to get into, even just topics like how much do we as the business understand what what decisions are being made with what technology, like from a compliance perspective, you can tell, see what's happened in emails. You can see what data has been exchanged in your company's emails, but like, how do you deal with an audio message sent over Slack? Like completely inaccessible in so many ways. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Actually, my company is working on it.
Interesting. Okay.
So we are actually working on the same use case where we can understand what's in the audio or even the video, and create intelligence out of it.
Sure.
Okay.
Right.
So, and all unstructured information can be using the artificial intelligence. We can generate intelligence out of it based on certain rules.
Very cool. Okay.
Yeah, but it is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. nice to bring your company into it right near the end. We're coming up in time here. Okay, I've got a couple more questions I want to try and squeeze in. Be mindful of your time.
Sure.
So we've spoken about emerging technologies a couple of times here. What emerging technologies do you foresee having the most substantial impact on online business operations in the next 5 years? Obviously, I can imagine where it's going to go given the current moment and AI and stuff. But yeah, that's the question as is.
I think hands down, it would be generative AI. Right. It's going to be a game changer for a lot of business processes, a lot of industries.
Yeah.
How we do things. Of course, it will have certain impact on the employment also.
Right.
Because you don't need to hire. And if I just consider IT perspective, right? I mean, not even considering outside. We may not need to hire 20 developers if we can generate the code at the first pass.
Right.
Matter of minutes. So but that's only in transition. So generative AI, hands down, it will be the number one thing. That is the game changer, and it is just the beginning. It is just the beginning.
It's definitely very. I had a moment this morning. So speaking about PDFs and unstructured data, I've been trying to deal with a really difficult PDF data extraction problem. And I've also been a bit of an outspoken generative AI skeptic, I will say that. But this morning I was like, I'm fed up of banging my head against this PDF problem. I'm just going to give the PDF to a generative AI and ask it to get what I want out of it and see what happens. And it did it. And I was just like, this is what I get for being a non-believer. I've just been absolutely had like hours of work that I've spent on this just instantly gone. I'm just like, okay,
it's
fine.
Instantly. Yeah. I mean, there are so many case studies. My company deals with unstructured data a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in that legal industry space where the legal cases are millions of documents.
Yeah.
We have petabytes of stores of data, all unstructured information, but how we create intelligence and it saves the legal lawyers and everything time. I mean, it's just substantial. It is substantial.
Yeah. Fascinating. All right. So final question here to squeeze last one in. We've spoken, about all different industries you've covered, the length of your career, the different, roles you've had from developer to digital transformations to, founder and CTO. As you look back on all of that, what is one piece of advice that you would give to folks entering the technology industry today?
So one piece of advice I would give is always broaden your horizon. Mm-hmm. Don't stay in your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. If you are comfortable, then punch out of the comfort zone, look beyond. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you are developing Java programs, understand how the interfaces work, understand how the data works, understand how the APIs work. If you are doing the database programming, understand the reverse side of it. What happens in the application level? If you understand the application and data, look at what's happening in security. If you understand security also, you have to broaden your horizon.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that people get into their cocoon and just stay in that cocoon because of their comfort zone, which is okay. Right. A lot of people, it is good for them. But people who want to grow, both in their career as well as professionally, as well as from the knowledge point of view, you have to understand what is the engagement tier, what is the digital services tier, what is the mass data integration tier, what is the enterprise services tier, and everything and around that. Yeah. So staying in your comfort zone is only going to help you to be in your cocoon, which is okay.
Yeah.
For some people, but for most, you need to expand. So learn, upskill wherever you get an opportunity. Content is freely available.
Yeah. Yep, perfect.
Yeah?
I think
so that would be my number one advice.
Yeah, I love that advice a lot. I think it's I say it's very easy to hone in on a single track and to spend your time in there, but the example you gave of being a Java application developer and understanding more about, what happens at either end and at the peripheries of your application, even if you do want to stay on that single, if you want to be just the world's best Java developer, it will really help you to do that. So
sure.
I think that's, that's great advice. Well, Pavi, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been fantastic. And thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Joe. And it was wonderful talking to you. And thank you for all the questions.
Of course.
Beyond the Screen, an IONOS podcast. To find out more about IONOS and how we're the go-to source for cutting-edge solutions in web development, visit ionos.com and then make sure to search for IONOS in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Don't forget to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at IONOS, thanks for listening.